Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I thought I'd put together a video to outline some of the changes in the latest OFA release 14 for the latest Ninja. Sorry it's taken a bit of time to get out, but unfortunately Ninja put out several patches for this, and from history and experience it's always served to wait until the Ninja version stabilizes. So that's the reason why there's usually a two week or so gap between Ninja launching. Otherwise we just end up having to redo the test all over again, which incurs a lot of wasted effort. So just that's the reason why there's a bit of a time delay. So the three sections I want to cover today are the OFA core, the OFA Delta add-on additions, and also a change to the risk reward. So first of all, I'm just going to switch into print mode. I'm just going to clear, I've got value area logic set on here, which colors the value area. I'm just going to switch that off. So I added in a parameter. This is a feature in MotiveWave, and I thought I would just carry it across here. That if you're in the print mode and you just want to zoom out from looking at the print just to get a structure overview, you can see the numbers don't draw for the bid ask volume once the width of the bar has gone below a certain setting. Currently that's set to, I think it's around 50, and you can modify that in the OFA parameters, and this is here in this section here. So you can actually disable that if you don't want that effect of the print not being displayed when you minimize the width on the x-axis. You can just disable that, or if you want to decrease it or increase it. So that's the setting for that. Okay, so that's the first item I wanted to cover. The next item in core that I added was the ability in structure mode to see the best bid offer and last trade highlight. This you will already be familiar with in the print mode, but I added it again. MotiveWave shows this in structure mode, so I thought I would just make this available. So you will see the colors. Obviously in a structure chart you're just going to see boxes, but the colors will map what's set in the settings. Currently I've disabled that. I think the default is disabled, so you don't need to, if you don't want to see that, you just leave the default setting. If you want to enable it, just click that. And as per the settings, the last trade highlight, best bid, best offer, with these being enabled, you can obviously change the colors. If you just want to keep track of what was the last trade as the order flow is coming in, you can watch in my case it's a yellow color for the last trade, and then the best bid, red. So that's just another a small feature in the core. One other thing just to draw your attention to regarding value, I've been oscillating between value area logic that people use, I think, and I believe DB uses this one, and also the POC logic. But I've kind of gone back to the value area logic just for the time being. And if I enable this, I've actually set some colors. You can see with these stronger colors, I can see where, with the value area logic, you're getting a red if the close is below the value area low, and then if the close is above the value area high, you get this green block for the actual value area. And in going back to it, just because there's been so much development and work and options, I've just decided to spend a bit of time with this just to sort of glean some insights and clues as to the order flow based on the value area. And you can see where it's neutral. This is this kind of plum color, i.e. there's no clear shift in the auction direction, either down or up. So these neutral ones just continue in the direction, in the current mini trend, as it were. So I just wanted to highlight that just as a reminder that for those who are perhaps newer to to OFA and wondering what these color logic settings mean. Each of them is based on the close relative to whatever's been set, be it the POC. For the VWAP, if it's a close above the first standard deviation. All these are covered in the documentation, but I just wanted again to highlight that it is actually quite a useful visual to see, to give you confidence that there's actually a close and above the actual value area, and you can obviously work with the volume and the delta for that additional confirmation. And then when you actually see here, you're getting a series of stronger selling auctions and coming back in to test this. So I just wanted to show that, and for anyone who uses value-ladder logic, they'll obviously be familiar with this and perhaps already using this, but for those who are newer, it's perhaps open one or two charts and contrast and compare that if you're using any of the other color logics. Okay. The next item I want to cover here is in the Delta add-on. I had been thinking for some time for a different presentation for the imbalance circles, and I did have one or two requests on this as well. So here is what I've come up with in presenting here is the ability to see, instead of the circles that you're familiar with that are scaled according to the actual size of the imbalance. You can see on the top right here, I'm currently displaying the diagonal difference volume. So on the diagonal, it's the actual volume of contracts between the bid and the ask on whichever side is dominant. And this MDDV represents the current filter setting 689 for this imbalance. So what I've added here is there's an option here to switch from circles to the dots. So if I do that, you can see it switches to the dots. Now, the thing to note here is the dots are actually all the same size. However, all of them must be greater than or equal to the 689. So it gives you an at-a-glance view of where the key imbalances are according to your setting. You can see the maximum for the screen. This is for the visible area of 1.4. If I increase this, you can see the number has, well, yeah, that was obviously quite a big area, but for this area, this is the largest in the area. If you just quickly need to see where that one is, you can just quickly flip back. Now what I've done is when you switch back and forth, it sets you back to the default settings so that you don't have, because obviously the dots are a much smaller size and the way that they're calculated, it means you don't have to keep going tweaking this. So in the dot mode, the other thing is you can change the opacity of the dots for each of them. So if I reduce this a little bit, you can see, let me see, yeah, you can see if I say go down all the way down to 50, say, you can see that if you don't want them as prominent as on full color, you can change the opacity of each of these. So that's in the top section here. I'll just set that back to roughly to that. The other thing is, obviously, if you additionally add in the diagonal ratio ones, you can, the order of drawing is horizontal, diagonal, and diagonal ratio, and then the sequence dots, so that the sequence dots won't be obscured if you're using this dot mode. And also you can, for example, increase the size of the circles. You can see I've increased the size and the opacity. Just going to reduce that for that. So if you've got any overlapping areas, you can see that the diagonal ratio, that green one, is overlaying on. So you've got that confluence, but it's not being obscured. So it is, I would just recommend, if you plan to use two of these, one or the other, that you can just set them to slightly different sizes so that you can see where both of them have met the criteria on the diagonal ratio versus the actual difference itself. So I'm just going to switch that off. So just as I'm covering this, what I want to show for you is, just as a reminder, again, I've done some videos on this and covered this, but if you consider here that the magenta dots are on the bid sides, we've got a lot of selling imbalance kind of generated in this kind of range here, and then it breaks out of this range, and again we've got here, here, here. But if you consider as well, if I open up to the print on this 1519, so if we go to 1519, and we've got this here, so we've got quite a large selling, and it's got the alert color in the print mode, and it's got a sequence dot. You can see how the sequence dot is on top of it. If you consider here as well that to note when you're reading these, sometimes the imbalances will appear on the side actually for continuation as momentum. But in this instance here, consider what's happening here. You've got a very heavy difference on the bid side. Okay, but it's not really making any progress, and it's continuing up. But so actually, what really just the effect of that is actually that is being absorbed on the book, on the limit order book side. So it's always important to consider the follow through when you see these larger differences, and again here. So I just wanted to point that out, that when you see these differences, particularly when you're at the bottom of a swing and you see the magenta, is consider as well on the book side, the market maker side, that a lot of that heavy volume will be absorbed, and in many cases that the commercials and institutions, that they want that volume to build and accumulate, and very often it will come back to test that as well. So just in your reading of these imbalances, you can see from here you've essentially got absorption. There's no this here, you've got it on both sides, but here, if you look here, you've got this minimum here, but there's no progression to the downside. And this one here, you can see at 1707 is coming back in to test this area. So when you see these and there's no follow through and it breaks above, based obviously on your other criteria for your trade plan, just note where in reading these imbalances, it's coming back into test this absorption area. So there was obviously a lot of interest on the book side here to hold the sellers. So the sellers are trying to drive it down, but they weren't making any progress, and it's popped up and it's come back to test. So you can see all the way up here there's been attempts on the sell side to drive the price, but it's just been absorbed. It's been absorbed. And again, coming back down here from a structure perspective, you've got this area here. So please, do use these zones and areas, and do consider actually, you've always got to consider what's happening on the other side of the trade. Aside from the deltas, which is the market orders, the aggressive orders, you've always got to consider on the passive, on the book side, what's actually happening. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. So that is the delta circles with the dots features, the imbalances, and the opacity. So let's get on to the next one. So this next feature that I've added, it's relating to the fibs tab in the volume profile settings. Now, one of the main reasons for providing this, obviously, there's the convenience that all of this is tied into your current swing, be it a range or a swing profile. And whilst I actually do not. Initially, when this was launched, it was really, there were certain key fibs that I used, the 50, and I know there was some requests for this, the standard 618s and some of the extensions, all these, fib numbers. Now, you can see by the numbers here that I don't have any of these, whether it's 113 or 13. I mean, these are all obviously based on, you can convert your fib number to the number here that's covered in the documentation. But if I show you here what I have enabled here, the 200, so basically effectively 200 is, it's 200%, so it's 2 times the size of the actual swing area, and 200 is going to be on the other side. So I've always got, because you never know which side the range is going to break out to, I've always got both sides. So you can see these settings I have here. what I've done is I've taken the 50% of this area, and I've taken the 100% of this area, and obviously this, and the 75, because it's always zones, it's never going to be a specific price. So both of these, all these have been enabled. You can see the numbers here. And if you need to take a screenshot and actually, if you wanted to try this. Now this is for my range profile. I don't do this on my swing. So on my range I have these settings. And I'm going to close that. So if I drag that, you'll see what I have is essentially, so that I can read this and see this and map the colors, is clearly I have the colors the same on each side. Okay, now what is this? This is the ES. It's in the first 5 to 5, 10, 15 minutes. Now there's variations in how people measure the initial balance. Now according to whichever methodology you use, you can obviously adjust this, but with order flow we can obviously see exactly what's happening within the first, in this case I've got 15 minutes. We've got this very tight range. Now most of you should know that there's very high volume in whether it's the NQYM, ES, all the markets really in the open and the New York session, you're going to have very high volume. So in this build of volume, again, one thing that I've learnt over time is that typically this will move up in stages like rungs of a ladder. Okay, so rather than going into a 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, I've never really subscribed to that of these numbers. Sometimes you get confluence, but usually it's in line with something else rather than the actual specific fib. But if you consider how the floor traders and other traders operate to basically calculate projections of a move, they're going to keep it more simple. They're not going to use these complex numbers. So this is what this blue is, the 50, and that orange is basically, it's a whole move measure of that block. With experience you can try this and apply it to your charts, to any bracketed area that's been setting up, it's been accumulating, and then when it breaks out it can give you some nice targets, either for a target or even to be ready to take a counter trade. So you can see here this orange line is, the price is stalled here. It's broken above a little bit, it's come back down. Now the feature I've added, this is already in Delta, but if I extend this, similarly to the feature I added for the advanced profile users, where they extend the value at area, high, low in POC, if you extend these, it takes you into the continuation of the cash session, and you can see how these levels hold and serve as levels to work with, either for re-entry just around the 50 here of this balance and onwards. So that's one example. That's from yesterday the 15th. I'm just going to disable the extension. I'm going to go back to yesterday's session. So in this case I've taken the first 10 minutes. Now again, depending on this, there's been a bit of an opening drive here, but I've basically taken the first 10 minutes because it's usually within the first 5-10 minutes of the open that you get the considerable volume. You can extend this. I have, in looking at this, I tend to vary it between 5 to 10 minutes, but leaning more to 10 minutes. So what I've done is effectively taken about 10 minutes of this. Now you could also use this in an OFA 1 minute chart if you want to be very specific on the minute. Have that on another chart just to mark your levels. So again, I've got the same lines on either side. You've got the point of control, but you can see how here it's basically effectively to the tick here has gone a full measure, a full block rung of the ladder up to this level, and then it's come back down to the actual area of the first 10 minutes volume. Okay, and again, if I extend these, it just gives you that clarity of where these measures, the the key here is this is where the commercials and institutions are actually taking their profits and then reassessing the market based on their factors of valuing the market, etc., as to where we're going next. And you can see how this served as essentially you've got a bit of a head and shoulders here, and you've got that move all the way down. So that's the addition to that. You can try it on whichever market you trade. I've got the NQ chart. This is an OFA minute based. I've done the first 10 minutes in this case. So that's the close. You can obviously adjust just for the POC and the volume here. Even though I've taken that to 41, you can see the actual range is the same. So you could, you know, in this instance, I could just extend this a little bit as it's just ranging, just to update the POCs. But that, again, that will come with experience. But then you can see here, if I extend this here, whoops, not that one. That's the POC. That's the one that's in the advanced profile. So if I extend these, you can see with a 50% projection of all this accumulated volume at the open. The idea is to look at, well, what's actually happening here? Is the price driving through? Is it holding? Is it stalling? Like the open, like the overnight low, like the overnight high? Could it serve as a level, as a basis of an entry, based on other factors here? You can see that there's a very strong drive in the delta here. It comes back down. The selling is weak as far as on the bid. So you've got another potential re-entry there. This is on the NASDAQ, 20. So you've got 30 points in the NASDAQ there just from that level. The orange again is a full rung of the ladder down. So you can see again it's come back down. Profits taken. In this case, it's driven all the way through. Now that green one down there is basically two full rungs of the ladder. This yellow is a 50. So you can vary the settings you use as you get experience of this. But you can see how I'm going to go into oil. See if I have an example of this in oil. So I have an example here from oil yesterday. Again, I've taken the first 10 minutes. Since the actual this is London time, 2 o'clock open. In this case, I'm going to carry it on to here. Okay, so we've got, you can see that the point of control here, as it's breaking up, it's actually coming back to test the point of control. One thing to, in the examples I've just shown you on the NASDAQ, now NASDAQ you'll probably be using one of the OFA settings, but there's just so many bars with NASDAQ at the moment, the volatility. To get that clarity, I've just been using the 1 minute. But if you pay attention to the point of control, and as it evolves, you can see here you basically got a retest of the POC before it actually breaks out. So I have also done the same, extended the lines on both sides, and you can see here, actually this is the oil report, so the best example, but you can see how it's kind of stalled, broken through, and then gone up to this. This is the full measure, 2 full measures, and you can see in terms of that, profits are being taken, the market's pausing. So again, these are all based on this. So the oil one, you may just want to tweak as to how much of the initial volume you want to use. This also applies outside of the initial range. If a balance area is being set up after the range, for example, we've got here up and down, up and down. I'm just going to try this one here. So if I just take that to that, I'm gonna get rid of this one on the lines. Okay, so I've got this area here. So we have this area here. This is in the last into the last hour of the ES cash session. I've just grabbed this area just as an example, just to show how this applies. Again, you've got this up and down, up and down. So you've essentially got this V of a closed bracket, and I want to see where the price gets to. So you've got here, again, this 75 is, again, it's a zone between here and there, because it's not always going to be to the tick to there, but it gives you an area to work with. And one of the key things would be look at your clusters and to see what else is happening to the left of this, because it may, there may be a very strong pivot in that zone that stalls and prevents it from getting to the full measure. But you can see anyway that with the 50, it definitely stalls, it gets to 75, and then it comes back down. So just as an example, outside of the initial range, you can also use this at other times of the day as orders are building and accumulating. I mean, this is just the accumulation process, and as to how, obviously, whoever bought here wants to take profit somewhere. So it's to give you an idea of where that's likely to be. Okay, so that's a feature within the delta for the fibs to extend these lines, so that it just makes it clear for the interaction as you continue. As that goes off the screen, you can see how these levels hold without you having to add individual lines with the Ninja drawing tool. So the next item here is for the print mode. I've had a few requests to be able to display the total volume and also the delta for the print mode. Okay, so if I go into the delta, at the top here, we have these two options here that have been added at the bottom of the top menu to display print mode horizontal deltas. So you can see here that we're just getting the delta. This is using the bid and the offer alert colors and the font size. So obviously green denotes an imbalance, or rather the delta positives, as in there's more buyers and sellers on this horizontal, and the red is more sellers on that horizontal. And I did look at the diagonal side. It just doesn't make sense to represent that, because you can appreciate, if I have a diagonal, depending on which side is dominant, well, which side do I show it on? And regarding that, that's what the other tools that we do have with sequence stops, with alerts and all the imbalances, that's all they're for. But I just, there's been requests, because obviously this is available, and a lot of the newer order flow packages are cropping up. So for those who actually want to make use of this print information in this way, so you can obviously see that seller, green, all you're seeing is green here, you're getting a mixture here. So those who want to make use of that information can do so. Now this is in the print mode, and you can obviously make the bars a little. I've displayed, for simplicity and display purposes, I've displayed them on this column. I just didn't want to kind of overly rejig all the number alignment, but it's pretty clear and you can read it. So that's the delta mode. The next one is the total volume. So this is effectively just the bid asking volume on a horizontal totaled up. And again, there was a couple of requests for this, for what they want to use that for in reading the numbers. So that is using basically the normal print color, and the font size is using the alert offer. So it's just obviously it's a slightly different, because of the totals, it's a slightly different print. So these are two additional print features, and if you just want to get back to the normal, you just switch off whichever one you've enabled, and you get back to the standard. Okay, so that's that part. So the last section is for the risk reward. Now, again, I had a specific request for this, the ability to add for the entry selection, to be able to select a chart price. Now this is a feature that's in AlgoX for the entry. You can obviously just select with the crosshairs your own entry price. Now that could be based on an EMA or another indicator or another line or level that you use, and you want to base your entry off that for the entry, and then obviously make the adjustments for the stop. Again, either using one of the OFA CWAP, VWAP, DWAP, all these variations here, or just using ticks from entry price. So I'm just going to add on if I add an active swing, it automatically connects to the risk reward. I'm going to select chart price for entry, and I'm going to base this off of, I'm just going to select the VWAP here. Okay. Now, just to demonstrate this, I realize this is, you know, we're not in a live swing, but I just want to demonstrate how to. So what you do is, you've made the selection here. Currently there's nothing showing, so the next thing to do is you basically click this, select the chart price. Now VWAP is my stop, so I want to do it in this zone here, so you can see it's just above the CWAP. So I may not want to use this, but I want to use this as my stop. So if I click here, you can see how it's then added the entry, or it maintains the entry based on the crosshair price that you select. And then you've got the projections all the way up for the settings that you have with risk reward. So again, it's another way to use a risk reward tool based on your own chart setting for the entry. It's typically your stop is going to be, you want to be using the volume generated elements of the profile, and the offset obviously will apply. So if the offset is adjusted, it will adjust based on the offset. If you then want to, okay, I don't like that price, I want to select another price. So if I move it up, you can see how, again, that's got the offset. So you can just tweak it and reset it and move it around until you're happy as you're preparing for your trade, or want to drag it down. So that is the addition to the risk reward. Okay, so hope that's clear. Any questions? Obviously email support. I'm trying to work through some of the requests that have been submitted. If you've got any other ideas or things you would like tweaked or based on what I've done for this release, do let me know. And good trading. Okay, thanks guys.